When you or someone you love gets a thyroid cancer diagnosis, one of the first questions you ask is, okay, what else can I do? Well, in this explainer, we're going to act as your Pathfinder. We'll guide you through some of the latest research on diet and supplements that could help support that treatment journey.
And really, this is the question that's at the heart of everything, isn't it? A diagnosis can make you feel like you've lost control. But what the research is starting to show is that there are absolutely ways you can be an active participant in your own care, right alongside your medical team.
Now, before we dive in, I have to make one thing crystal clear. Please think of this guide as a resource, a conversation starter you can bring to your doctor. It is absolutely not medical advice. The whole point here is to help you have a smarter, more informed conversation with your healthcare team.
So with that in mind, we've put together this Research Pathfinder. It's designed to walk us through some of the most promising areas of research, where diet and supplements might just play a really important supportive role. So let's take a look at the path we're going to take. All right, here's our game plan. We're going to start by talking about taming inflammation. Then we'll get into balancing your metabolism and boosting your immune defenses. We are also going to zero in on one really fascinating study about a compound called Escin. And then we'll wrap it all up by talking about the best way to partner with your doctor.
Okay, first stop, inflammation. You can think of it like a low-grade fire smoldering inside the body. And what researchers are finding is that cancer can actually use this fire to fuel its own growth and even to resist treatment. So you can see why calming it down becomes a huge priority.
So how do doctors keep track of this fire? Well, one of the key things they look at is something called C-reactive protein, or CRP for short. It's a really simple blood test that just gives a snapshot of how much inflammation is going on in your body. Remember this one, CRP, because it's a really big deal in the research we're about to see.
And here's exactly why that CRP number matters so much. One study found an absolutely staggering 85% lower risk of the cancer progressing in patients who were able to keep their CRP levels low. I mean, that is a massive difference. And it really shows a powerful link between inflammation and your outcome.
And, it turns out what you eat can make a huge difference here. The research basically tells two completely different stories. An anti-inflammatory diet is linked to a 1/3 increase in overall survival. But an inflammatory diet? That's linked to a 34% increase in risk. The takeaway here is pretty night and day.
So what can help? Well, the research points to some really powerful anti-inflammatory allies, things like curcumin, lactoferrin, garlic, ginger, and those omega-3 fatty acids.
Okay, next up, let's talk about metabolism. Cancers can be incredibly smart and sneaky. They can actually hijack how our bodies process things like sugar and fat, and they turn our own fuel systems against us to feed their own growth. And in particular, the researchers found this really strong link between high blood sugar and insulin resistance and more aggressive cancer. In fact, in one huge analysis of over 11,000 patients, the vast majority showed signs of insulin resistance.
So how do we fight back on this front? The research points to a couple of interesting strategies. Berberine is well known for helping manage blood sugar levels, which basically cuts off that easy fuel source for the cancer. And then there's citrus pectin, which can help manage the body's copper levels, another element that some cancers seem to use to grow.
All right, let's turn to what might be our greatest weapon in this fight, our very own immune system. The latest research is really starting to show us how we might be able to help it do its job even better and fight back against cancer more effectively.
And to understand how, you need to meet the lymphocytes. These are a specific type of white blood cell, and you can honestly think of them as the special forces of your immune system. Their whole job is to hunt down and destroy threats, and that includes cancer cells.
And keeping those special forces strong and numerous, it makes a world of difference. Research has shown that patients who have higher lymphocyte counts had an incredible 87% lower risk of their cancer progressing. In fact, this was a really common threat among patients who achieved long-term remissions.
So how do we keep our immune army strong? Well, the research highlights a couple of key players. Lactoferrin is great because it helps with iron balance, which is just essential for healthy blood and strong lymphocytes. And then there's the herb astragalus, which has been shown to directly help boost the number of these critical immune cells.
Now, among all this research, there is one study that really stands out from the rest, and it focuses on a natural compound called Escin, which actually comes from the horse chestnut plant.
So this study from 2017, which was published in a major journal called Cancer Medicine, looked at 120 patients who all had advanced thyroid cancer. And their conclusion was pretty direct. They said, Our study showed Escin is efficient and well-tolerated. That means it worked and it was safe.
And when I say it worked, the results were, well, they were remarkable. For the patients who were taking esculpiracin, the risk of their cancer getting any worse was cut in half.
But that's not all. The study also found that Escin doubled the amount of time that patients lived without their cancer progressing, and it doubled their overall survival time as well. I mean, these are the kinds of results that can genuinely change lives.
So let's just pull all of these pieces together for a second. What the research seems to be suggesting is a multi-pronged approach, right? You've got Escin hitting progression risk, you've got lactoferrin and astragalus boosting the immune system, curcumin fighting inflammation, and berberine helping out with metabolism. Each one is kind of fighting on a different front.
And all of this brings us to the most important step of all, taking this information and actually using it. Because knowledge is power, right? But it's most powerful when you use it to work with your doctor. This is all about turning interesting research into a real, safe plan of action.
And here's a simple way you can prepare for that conversation. First, organize your questions ahead of time. Just write them down. Second, make a complete list of every single medication and supplement you're already taking. Third, don't be shy about bringing up specific studies that caught your eye, like that Escin trial. The whole goal is to work together to co-create a plan that's right for you.
Which brings us right back to that very first question we ask. When you feel empowered by research, and you use that knowledge to build an even stronger partnership with your doctor, what's possible then? It just opens up the door to a more personalized, more proactive, and honestly, a more hopeful approach to your health.